Welcome to episode number 36 of the Between Two Brands podcast. I am still your host, Bill Petrie, and I want to thank you for joining me today. But before we get started, let's pay the rent, shall we? Hey, in 2025, your clients are looking for more than just a product with their logo on it. They're looking for rock solid merchandise solutions that are more than just innovative. They're going to be used for months and obviously even years to come. Let me introduce you, or maybe in some cases reintroduce you, to the good folks over at Coaster Stone. Now, they are the original manufacturer of the absorbent stone coaster with unmatched durability, quality, and gorgeous edge-to-edge decorating that allow your creative designs to come to life in vibrant full color detail. Now, since 1983, Coaster Stone has set the standard when it comes to delivering a retail-inspired experience to any client function. Instead of boring and plain packaging, who wants that? How about packaging options that are customizable? Coaster Stone delivers a value far beyond the product itself. Now, did you know that they manufacture their pinback buttons right here in the United States of America? Well, they do. And they're the ideal, cost-effective, and fun pieces of branded merchandise really around. Now, with that combination of stone cold quality, striking decoration, cost per impression, and unmatched value, David Glenn and his team are ready to help you make a rock solid impression with your clients. Go ahead and email them today at promo@coasterstone.com to start your next project today. All right, so obviously I'm recording today from my office here in beautiful, bucolic Franklin, Tennessee, and I'm excited about a guest. We have a returning guest today, and I'm excited to speak with her. But before we get to her, I thought it was a good time to reflect on the end of an era. I think we've been seeing this play out quite a bit over the past few weeks and months. We had Mark Simon leaving Halo, who he had been there 20 years, almost 25 years. Leadership turnover the past few years at PPAI, from Paul Bellantone to Dale Denham, and now we have Drew Holmgreen. And yesterday, as I'm recording this is Thursday, September the 18th, Tim Andrews from ASI announced his retirement, effective the end of March of 2026. And it got me to thinking, as I used to say, as things often do. And, ASI gets maligned a lot. And quite honestly, most of it's unfair. It really is. People tend to forget that unlike PPAI, which is an association, a not-for-profit association, ASI is a for-profit entity. Their goal, just like your business, my business, is to make money. That's what they do. And Tim has not only been a steward of ASI for the past 2 decades as president and CEO, I would also argue he's been a steward of our industry at the same time. That's not his job, but he's done it anyway. Job is to maximize value for ASI employees and the Cohn family that owns ASI. But he's also been a tremendous steward of the industry. Now, I know Tim a little bit. I won't pretend that I know him all that well, but I do have a good relationship with Tim, and it's always great when I see him. There's always a hug, there's always a laugh, and he's always very engaged. What I love about Tim is what made him great, and I'm not speaking about him in the past, what makes him great. He's truly a great leader. And a couple things came to mind. What makes him such a great leader? One, he's inquisitive. He's always seeking to understand. I love that about Tim. He's insatiably curious. If he not only wants to understand emerging trends, he wants to understand people, your motivation. What can he do to help you? I love that about Tim. He never engaged in that ASI versus PPAI debate. He always felt correctly, in my opinion, that there was room for everybody. And I love that. Absolutely. He showed up. I'm telling you, no matter how tired he was, no matter, he's there at every show, smiling, shaking hands, talking to people, looking at them in the eye. And I think that's my favorite thing I think about when I think of Tim Andrews. He always had time for people. He made time for people. He would look you in the eye. He would remember small things about you, and he would make you feel, and still does this to this day. He makes you feel like the most important person in the room. I remember last year I was speaking at ASI Fort Worth. I went for a run in the morning and I happened to run past him. He was getting coffee. Didn't think he noticed me. I didn't stop and say hi because I'm looking like crap. I'm sweating. It's gross. And I saw him later that day, right before I went to speak, and he said, "Hey, how was your run this morning?" And I couldn't believe that. It's just really a nice little touch that he did that. So we really are in a new generation of leadership in this industry, and I think we're going to see that play out over the next couple of years. But I did want to take a quick pause and just recognize Tim. Now, the Cohn family, they still own ASI, and Tim is going to work with them on the transition to a new leader. And like I said, I believe he's going to be there through the end of March. They've engaged, they being ASI, have engaged a CEO search firm to lead the process. And, more than anything, I'm going to miss seeing Tim around. Now, there's still some opportunities too, and I hope to see him at both ASI Orlando and ASI Fort Worth coming up in 2026. But congratulations to Tim on his retirement. He is one of the good ones, one of the real good ones. So, Tim, hopefully you see this. Hopefully you're listening to this. Thank you for everything you've done, not only for the industry, but for me. You've always had good advice for me. My only regret is we never had a chance to really work together. All right, before we get to our return guest, got to pay the rent, right? Hey, many people know how to build a business, but few people understand not only when to sell that business, but the process involved to ensure that you find the right partner to maximize the return on your investment. Now, honestly, you need an expert, especially one in the branded merchandise field and to help you. And this is where certified marketing consultants come in. Jamie Watson and her team have absolute decades of experience facilitating private company sales in the branded merchandise space. Now, to help you evaluate if it's time to sell your business, reach out to CMC at info@certifiedmarketing.com for a confidential discussion today. All right, let's go ahead and bring on our returning guest. My guest today doesn't need an introduction, but she's sitting in a low rent Hampton Inn, going to waste some of her time, my time, and your time. Hey, she is the Chief Revenue Officer of Made to Order with 15 years of experience in the promotional products industry on both the supplier and distributor sides, blah, blah, blah. Everybody, please welcome my friend and yours, the one and only Brittany Frase. Brittany, thank you for returning to do this silly little podcast.
Yeah, I will be sending you my Venmo link after this so that you can pay me accordingly.
I look forward to ignoring your text. So it'll be just like every other text string you send me.
Honestly, fair. And my fee's higher now with this
Oh,
title, so you're welcome.
well, as well it should be. All right, before I have a few questions. I think I have the courage to ask. Other people don't have the courage to ask, and I don't like to brag, but I absolutely have the courage to ask them. But before I do you have anything you would like to talk about? I'm all ears.
So I am on the very last day. Our meetings concluded 30 minutes ago of a like speed dating style event that Reciprocity Road does. And it's been different for me because I'm used to being the one presenting and saying the same thing over and over again. And like on day one, it's 2.5 days. On the first day that we concluded, everyone was asking me, well, you're on this side of the fence now, or again, I should say, how is it different at the end of day one? And I said, my feet hurt less and my brain hurts more. And I think that's the best way to kind of describe being on this other side. But that to say something that helped me during this is that I used for the first time an AI recorder to
Hmm.
record my meeting notes, and it's one that I use on like my Zoom calls. But I use it for these actual meetings. Was able to rename them, and then of course get the summary and copy them over. All of that context, to make a long story long, to throw the topic to you of how do you think in our industry AI is having a role within trade shows specifically? Because we've heard a lot of probably too much content to a certain extent about how AI
Yeah.
is changing merch and what that's going to look like, and industry as a whole and our world as a whole. How do
Yeah.
you think it's changing trade shows or can?
I think you hit the nail on the head with using it AI note taker. For this, we're doing this through Zoom. But
Mhm.
with my client, so I'm not recording anything other than just the actual conversation so I can post it later. But with all my client meetings, I use an AI note taker because A, I'm terrible at taking notes. And B, it's such a wonderful tool how it encapsulates what the conversation was, who's got actionable items and things like that. And it's something I can email to clients. I think the next level of that is bringing it to a trade show. And especially, I don't think you'd want to record every conversation or every meeting.
Yeah.
In a speed dating, what you're doing is just kind of basically having a almost like a new version of a recorder. People used to
Hmm.
have these very small cassette recorders and they'd bring to meetings like that so they could remember the conversation. Reporters used to do that in the olden days, 20 years ago, the olden days.
Hmm.
Um,
I wouldn't
I
know.
think
Was barely born.
I, I know clearly. So I think that's a big part of it. I think the other thing is as AI gets better, one of the things we see after every trade show, I took this picture. Does anyone remember the booth? I don't know
Right.
what this is. I think that the photo recognition is going to get so much better that AI, whether it's a chat GPT or any other AI client, will be able to say that actually came from this supplier and this is the product number and here's a link to it. I don't think we're that far from that. So I think that's how it's really going to change the game for trade shows. I've advised people for a long time, stop taking pictures. If you really like something, just do
Right.
the same thing with your phone, do a video and say, I'm here at the XYZ booth and this product would be ideal for this client. Stop the recording. You're done. And you have this memory of it. But I think AI will do that moving forward or can do that.
Yeah, and I think it gave me the opportunity to be engaged. And again, funny on the supplier side of it, if people aren't taking notes, you're usually like, oh, they're not paying attention. They're not going to retain this because you're sitting
Right.
through what it's 15 or 20 meetings sometimes a day. Some
Yeah.
people do even more than that. You A can't retain everything, and B, it's like, oh, what was that thing that they were talking about? And when you're trying to jog your memory, like I'm considering AI like this little part of my brain, right? Like it's not replacing it by any stretch of the imagination, but I think in tandem, it's going to help me take notes back to the team members that couldn't make it to this event. It's going to, again, some of those conversations were driven more towards the other people in the room necessarily than me. So I can kind of cut and paste from what AI gave me
Right.
of these notes are relevant to me afterwards and these aren't. So I
Right.
think for this, it's cool. And I'm interested to see like Vegas and how many people are utilizing the AI tools to actually just get the most ROI out of the experience. So that was just my little topic I
I,
wanted to throw at you today
I
while I'm completely brain dead.
I think you're right. And I'm going to add one more thing. I actually wrote a blog, which you'll love the title, that comes out Monday. It's called Old Man Yells at Cloud. And one of the things I'm yelling about is I've pretty well documented that I leverage AI quite a bit, but
Yeah.
I don't. There's a fine line where you overuse it, and I'm starting to see people
Yes.
really overusing it and using it instead of their actual brain power.
Yeah.
When you're using
Well,
it to
and you
make your
kind of have to trick it. Like
Yep.
ChatGPT, by the way, if y'all are sending me all of these things that have all these hyphens in it, I know it came from ChatGPT. You can also tell
Yeah.
ChatGPT to take the hyphens out. So I think it's
Yes.
the people that are like learning to prompt it properly are
Yeah.
using it the most effectively. And you can see when there's bad AI for
Absolutely.
sure.
So it's a tool that should enhance what you do, not replace what you do. So a
Agreed.
note taker is fantastic, but there's times I've looked at the notes, I'm like, I have no idea what this thing is because it makes no sense to me. It is not
Right.
perfect. So
Well, and I will
anyway,
say that too,
yeah,
like the note taker, when I was changing the speakers, it was like speaker zero said this and speaker two said this. And sometimes it was
yeah,
completely wrong. So you still have to have the human brain. And that's when people say that, oh, AI is coming to replace. Like, no, it's here to enhance when used properly. And sure, it may replace at one stage. We are so far away from that. In fact, I think at
right.
NALC, there was a great speaker that chatted about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fascinating for sure to sit through this and actually utilize an AI component more than I had previously. So
Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's get to your questions before your internet craps out again. Hey, you've recently moved from the supplier side at Hirsch back to the distributor side with Made to Order. Now, over the past few years, you really became synonymous with Hirsch. So I have a couple questions wrapped up in the first question. Number one,
fine.
or number A, was it difficult for you to make the leap?
Yes and no. It should always be difficult to make a leap because those aren't fly by the seat of your pants decisions, particularly for overthinkers and for trying to find all the pitfalls and everything and make sure you're solving for those, right? So of course it was difficult. And Hirsch, I think for most people know, I guess I was at Hearst the last 4.5 years, but they started me in the industry when I was 19. And then I took some sabbaticals and then came back to Hearst. And so as it's made its circle and that journey is finally complete, um, first and foremost, it is finally complete. I'm not going back a fourth time. So I think the third time's a charm really is we're done there, right? So it's knowing that that chapter is over. And that's always difficult, but
Yeah.
also the
Mm.
opportunity to create the new chapter is so exciting that it replaces all of that. And it's so bittersweet. And that's how the Hershes felt about it too. I got a lot of like, well, how did the Hershes take it? And it's like,
Yeah.
same thing. They are so happy for me because they truly care about me as a human. They appreciate what we built there together. And now they're so excited that I'm making this next step forward. And it doesn't hurt that I'm working for one of the clients that has been huge supporters of Hirsch for
Right.
forever. So now they still get to work with me just in a different capacity.
And you're right. The Hershes are such great people. Why was made to order the right fit for you?
So my other question I'm getting for the people that are bold enough to ask is exactly that one. Because as you can imagine, I've seen quite a few distributors, met with a few distributors, have lots of great friends that are
Mm.
distributors and other suppliers. Most people assume that if I were to make a move, which again, it wasn't something that I was necessarily looking for, that it was going to be with another supplier. And so a lot of great people in our industry, people first is the most important. There was nowhere that I was going to be that didn't have incredible people. And if I just could throw some specifics out there, Steph Hinkle, who just made our Rising Star list, who's absolutely transforming the distributor tools and not for the biggest, right? Made to order is not Halo, and that's great. And she is still managing to just carve this space out that's incredible. Hannah Granata, who is one of the smartest humans. If you sit and chat with her, just listening to her, I feel so dumb being in the same little Zoom space with her, and it makes me
I
so
totally
happy.
can relate.
Just
Yeah, I can relate.
listening to her chat. And then you've got this. So the Made to Order make the acquisition last year of the Red
Mhm.
Promo team. That
Right.
is a powerhouse organization, or was a powerhouse organization with these great reps. And so the integration with MTO, who you've got some guys, everyone knows Rex and everyone knows,
Right.
Chris, who's been there forever. There's these Sandy, of course, and Matt Poole. There's these incredible people that are there.
Mhm.
And then when you dig into it a little bit more and find out more about the story, so people first, of course, but it's a woman-owned business, which is extremely important to me and to my
Sa-
values.
and Sandy's amazing.
Value,
Sandy's amazing.
Sandy. Yeah, I didn't even get into the Sandy of it all because I could probably make an entire new podcast about how not is she's just such a powerhouse, but the opportunity to learn from her was something I couldn't pass up. So it's the opportunity to learn from Sandy and to really not only is she the CEO of that company, but she has millions of dollars in business. So she's incredible to listen to. Again, incredibly intelligent, and being able to feed off of her and collaborate with her and discuss how the organization can change. Every single organization has um, things that are under the hood once you pop it, right? And so the opportunity to be able to make potentially make a difference in the organization, but also I'm not going to fix what isn't broken, right? So trying to figure
Yeah.
that out and align. But Made to Order was the right fit for a ton of reasons. They're also an ESOP. I
Awesome.
can't not mention that as well. I think ASB and us are like two of the only ones that I'm aware of. So the opportunity for it to be an employee-owned
Yeah.
business means that the employees have buy-in into the organization already, which
That's
is
great.
just an incredible thing. So
That's great. Like I said, I'm the only person I know that has the courage to ask the real questions. So,
yeah.
do you find it odd working for a distributor named after the 1987 American comedy fantasy film starring Ali Sheedy as a spoiled rich kid named Jesse who is made penniless by her godmother when her godmother casts a spell to erase her identity, forcing her to become a maiden reversal of the Cinderella formula?
Okay. So in 1987, I wasn't even born yet, and the only Made movie I know of, because I'm assuming MAID, correct? Other Made.
Oh, that okay. Yeah, that you know what? That's where the confusion is. I'm sorry. Color me embarrassed.
Yeah, you should watch Made in Manhattan. That's a relatively more relevant movie to my
Okay.
generation. And now not even the generation behind me that allegedly is there. So,
That's right. That's right. Okay. Kidding aside, your change in career kind of kicked off what I always call the silly season in this industry, where it's everybody's changing jobs right now, it seems like.
mhm.
So, what is the most brutally honest advice you'd give someone in our industry looking to make some sort of seismic shift in their career. And remember, since you're now part of the C-suite as chief revenue officer, your advice is worth like at least a three times markup.
But yeah, definitely. My billable hours have increased substantially. Um, Tough question. Great question. There is so much noise in this industry. I mean, there's noise in every industry, but this one as well, that needs to be navigated through. You mentioned like even you asking me the tough questions. Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions, not just as the interviewer, but the interviewee. And I'm not talking like, where do you see success in this 30, 60, 90, which is a great question and should be asked. I
Sure.
asked it myself. But more so about the pain points of the organization and kind of knowing what you're getting into a little bit before you take the leap. I don't care what organization it is, from a one person, a $5 million, $30 million, your larger companies, all of those have something under the hood. And you kind of want to know, are we looking at an oil change situation or are we looking at a full transmission overhaul, right? I don't know nearly enough about cars to make that analogy I just made. But regardless, in this industry or in any industry, I would tell you to, if you are going to make the next shift in your career, know a little bit about what you're getting into with that. You are going to have pain points in the organization, and that's okay. Hopefully, how you can add value is, and that's kind of part B to what I would say, is make sure that your experience aligns with those particular pain points, right? Those pain points could be there. And if I didn't have what I thought was the experience to solve for those, it might not have been a fit, even with the best people. And even though it's an ESOP and I have value alignment and all of that, if I didn't align with those pain points, I wouldn't have made the jump to where I did. And I would really encourage other people to do that. I've actually talked to some other people. We've gotten far in conversations where ultimately it was, hey, what you need isn't necessarily me. And you can like me as a person and I can have this great experience on both supplier and distributor side. And it doesn't necessarily make me right for that organization. And that's okay. And to be okay with that, instead of it's just a job and it's just a paycheck, if it's somewhere you want to be, and ultimately that's with Made to Order, I was looking for where am I going to be for the foreseeable future, right?
Yeah.
So that's my advice.
Love it. That's great advice, actually. I'm surprised. Let's talk about switching sides. We all know that one thing suppliers always want is more access to distributors. So now that you're back on the distributor side, what are a couple pieces of advice you'd give to suppliers who want to gain that ever elusive access? And also, higher rebate levels is not an acceptable answer.
Yeah, I mean, higher rebate levels doesn't hurt. Let's get real. But everyone says like bring value, don't just bring product. You're not just a product salesperson. And I think that's
Right.
been kind of beaten over the head, right? What I would like to tell suppliers, brutally honest, especially after sitting through 2.5 days of meetings, is you don't know their organization as well as you think they do, right? I can't tell you how many people have told me over the past, really since my Made to Order announcement came out, of I know so and so, and I've known them for years, and they're the number one rep. And I'm like, they're not. And it's not that they're not. Of course they are. I'm so glad you have that relationship. That's incredible. Keep that going. But also, sometimes the quietest person in the room does the biggest numbers, right? So
Agreed.
I think that's something too that everyone also kind of says sit and listen before you talk, but truly start there and start with getting to know more of the people. And like my role, which people are like, what even is a CRO, right? Actually, I like when they ask that question because then I get the opportunity to answer it. Yes, the product's great. And I need to know a little bit about that, but it's more so how can I support my team and how can we
Mhm.
both make more money together? And yes, we want to support our preferred suppliers, but also like how are we doing that in a way to make us both money? And treating that as a transactional and being honest with that too. I'm not, yes, the rebates, of course, give us rebates, that'd be great. But also let's make it better for both of us too.
Yeah.
Yes, give me those things. And here's what I'm going to give you to make your organization better so that you do give us more resources, so that you want to give us more of those things because we are both here for the same thing. And that's, I think, what suppliers and distributors sometimes don't align with, or maybe, you see on the Facebook group about people complaining suppliers just don't get it and blah, blah, blah. And to a certain extent, they don't. Like I said, there's certain times where they assume things about roles and people in the
Sure.
organization that they just don't know. But yeah, find out, ask them what their goals are in the meeting, or ask them what their initiatives are. And don't be afraid to ask those tough questions. Oh, and definitely don't lead a meeting with like, this is how much y'all didn't do with us last year, because that's not encouraging either. It's finding
Right.
the why behind it. It's okay we didn't. That just means there's nowhere to go but up. How can we align to make that better?
Yeah. I love that answer, especially maybe don't go to the loudest one because I've been in trade show booths. I've actually been in a booth with you talking to you and have someone come up say, "Hey, I'm one of your biggest clients." And
Hmm.
they're not. They never are. It is
Right.
generally speaking, the people who are a little more modest, a little less bravado, a little less loud about their own successes, that
Yeah.
really move the needle. No, I love that.
Typically because they're busy making money.
Correct. Hey, last time you are the first, really, other than Kirby, who comes on for specific special episodes, you're really the first returning guest on this dumb podcast. Now,
Yeah.
last time you were here, I had to review the podcast, which is always a painful thing for me. Last time you made a kind of a cottage industry, a mission, if you will, of calling me Billosaurus, and you
Hmm.
accomplished that mission. Now that you're a CRO, which I'm wondering if that's short for Chief Reptile Officer, but I digress. How do you plan on leading a sales force of vastly different ages?
I'm not ageist. I would like to be clear and put that out here while I have this public platform of your four listeners and my grandma. It's just I'm ageist towards you specifically.
Oh,
So
it's a
it's
Bill
a you
specific
thing.
issue. Okay,
Correct.
super, super.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not everybody. Meet people where they're at. That's how I'm going to do
Okay.
it. So if that, I don't really care what age that person is. And my goal isn't to figure out how old they are. My goal is to make us both money together. So,
I like that. Meet people where they're at. So I'll meet you at the home later for some Metamucil. All right, last question. You're a fan of the Houston Texans. You're from Houston. And frankly, they've been
yeah.
bad so long, it's become kind of their
Hmm.
brand. Now, as
Yep.
Chief Revenue Officer, what advice would you give the Houston Texans organization for turning their habitual failures into a kick ass marketing strategy to drive season ticket sales?
All right. So we've been a team since 2002. I'm going to pivot this question. Remind me when the last time is that the Cowboys won the Super Bowl.
See, thankfully, I'm mentally prepared for you trying to reverse the whip on me. And this is my podcast. I'm asking the questions here. I'm not answering them. You had that
Hmm.
opportunity earlier. You squandered it on use of AI at trade shows. Great, great topic. I enjoyed it. All four of the listeners, Grandma might even enjoy it.
Maybe
Unfortunately, I am not, this is not the part of the podcast where I get to answer your questions. So again, what would
next
you
time.
do? No, not maybe. There might not be a next time. This could be the last episode. I wish we knew. How do you take their habitual failures and turn it into a kick-ass marketing strategy to drive season ticket sales? Because it looked like a lot of empty seats at NRG Stadium when I saw them last play.
You know what? I think Houston is doing just a great job of tapping into the things that make Houston great, which is our diversity, it's our food scene, it's how amazing, again, that all of our skin looks because the humidity is, we're swimming through our air all the time. So I just think they just need to keep doing what they're doing and don't let Jerry Jones lead the team. And we'll get there one day, probably
Well,
sooner than the Cowboys for sure.
I'm not going to argue that. That's probably accurate. But again, we're not talking about the Cowboys. We're not talking about my teams, sports teams. Like A&M beat Notre Dame in a great game the other night. But that's beside the point. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the Houston Texans. But hey, you know
Mhm.
what? Let's leave it there, right? Thank you so much for joining me. But before we go, hey, this episode of Between Two Brands has been brought to you by the good Strongs over at Coaster Stone, home of the original absorbent stone coaster. Now, with that combination of stone cold quality, striking decorations, low cost per impression, retail packaging, and unmatched value, David Glenn and his team over at Coaster Stone are ready to help you make a rock solid impression with your clients. Go ahead and email them at promo@coasterstone.com today. Brittany, thank you for returning to this podcast. Maybe we'll do it again sometime. Perhaps you'll come better prepared with questions to make me feel something. I don't know.
Thank you for having me. And also, I'm sorry. I think pretty much covers it.
There's nothing to be sorry about. Thanks, Brittany.
Truly. Thanks, Bill. Have a good one.